Hello and welcome. My name is Vex. Today is Friday, and we are gearing up for another weekly Friday leak for Godforge from the Fateless crew. This week's a bit different, though. This week we don't have anything really new to showcase. We weren't given any juicy bits. We were asked to think about what we might want to see from the game from the Aaru faction, which is the ancient Egyptian mythology faction. So I've seen a couple of creator videos. Definitely check out the Fateless Discord if you want to check out all of them. There's tons of creators who are making videos about this and giving their own input. I've seen a lot of like, I think it's Bass and like Thoth and things like that. People are saying should be added to the game. I have my own take of who should be added to the Aaru, specifically the Aaru faction, and we're going to go into that in just a bit. But I want to first talk about who we have already announced and who we've already seen. So this website, scrollsofanubis.com, I think it's just somebody from the community who has decided to put together a Godforge wiki, because there isn't an official wiki yet. So it's pretty cool. But here we get to see all of the characters who have been revealed for the Aaru faction. We've got sort of the big ones we see all the time, like Anubis. We just talked about Horus last Friday. If you missed that video, go check it out. We've talked and memed a little bit about the Mummy being like like an epic hero or something. This is, I don't know. Just the way they had it in the game at the time, it was very, very funny. We've got sort of Jackal, Mummy as like, I think they're going to be common or uncommon characters, right? You're going to see them in waves. We've got Ramses, so we've even got like Nubian. I don't actively know what Nubian is, or if that's just like a person. But it seems like we've got gods and pharaohs and like just sort of famous people from the Egyptian faction. Basset has been announced. Isis has been talked about a couple times. I'm hoping that soon we can get some concept art for Isis. Imhotep, obviously another famous one. King Tut, of course. I don't know how they're going to put King Tut into the game. I feel like there are things that are like definitely okay to touch, like Ra or Osiris or Horus, you know. Then there are things that are slightly on the should we really put this in the game? And King Tut, I think, is one of those. From what I remember from my horrible education, was King Tut was a child pharaoh. I'm sure that they could figure out a way to make King Tut like a sort of big beefy dude and like give him a staff and a bunch of abilities, or he could be some sort of like guide, you know, like the Arbiter is in Raid Shadow Legends or something like that. So who knows, you know, this is only like things that they've talked about that this person has added to the wiki, right? Ra is another big one. I think we saw a little bit of Ra with Horus as well. But that's pretty much all we got. Nefertiti, not too much. We know that each faction is going to have about 25 characters on launch. Probably going to be a couple more with like some commons and uncommons, sort of filling the gaps. But, you know, these are some of the heavy hitters, right? If you think Egyptian gods, you think Ra, you think Anubis, you know, things like that. But, as is very common with the factions and the ancient myths that Godforge is drawing from, there's hundreds and hundreds and sometimes thousands of different gods that could be represented in the game in various ways. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I think I have some pretty good suggestions and some pretty good hopes for what could be in the faction. But I'm going to preface this with, this is all Any likenesses are, how do you say it? Any likenesses are unintentional, and this is, I make videos for entertainment value. So yeah, without further ado, let's talk about the Egyptian god cards and how I think that they should be added to Godforge. Let's start with my favorite, Slifer the Sky Dragon. Slifer is a gigantic beast that dominates the sky in the acclaimed Egyptian anime Yu-Gi-Oh, held by the main character Yami Yugi. We don't talk about Obelisk the Tormentor. He's like not really a god, right? And he's like controlled by Kaiba and Kaiba Corp. We don't like corporations, so we don't endorse Kaiba Corp. Ra, we've already got Ra in the game, so we already got one of the 3 Egyptian god cards. But I think only if we're doing Egyptian myths, we should also include the Millennium items, right? So maybe there should be a portion of the game, maybe like as soon as you start the game, you start collecting pieces of the Millennium puzzle, and you get a reward like almost like the Mikage Fusion, which I just finished. Fantastic. You get the Millennium Puzzle as a reward, and maybe we skip the part where you go save your grandpa who got stolen by a megalomaniac that has also one of the other Millennium items. Anyway, the next logical conclusion after the Millennium items and the Egyptian god cards is Exodia the Forbidden One. This one I think could be a boss. This could be the Aaru boss, or it could be the first like fusion. So we do something in the game and we get the different pieces of the Forbidden One, and then we win the game as soon as we have all 5 pieces, right? That's literally what it says on Exodia the Forbidden One. You win the game if you have all of them in. Maybe this should be tied to monetization, because you don't want to just like give out winning the game for free, right? You want to try to make some money. So anyway, on to the next fandom where I think we can draw some real Egyptian mythology inspiration. Magic the Gathering, famous for tying in real life myths and characters such as SpongeBob and The Walking Dead. They've also got really interesting takes on Egyptian gods like Kefnet, this sort of like blue eagle god. We've got Ronus, the green snake god. I like Hazaret. She's a red god, good for commander and good for if you want to play like low to the ground decks and burn your opponent out. Super good. They've also got really nice land artwork that we could draw from. Pay no attention to the nickel bolus horns in the background. We don't need to talk about him. Let's talk about how this could be a really nice, like, fantastic loading screen, or I don't know if they decide if Fateless decides to make Godforge Invocation TCG, we could have land cards that are just very similar to Amonkhet, which is Magic the Gathering's Egyptian setting. Next up, we've got another potential for a loading screen, or like a like the background when you choose a campaign like stage, like the sewers, it brings up like a map, or like a it brings up like a map that you scroll through where you see like stage 1-1. Hang on, I need a drink. I'm getting choked up. It says like Aaru stage 1-1, and the background could be this. where there's like this huge desert, maybe like some floating raids. Not Raid Shadow Legends though. No, we don't support that game. And maybe some quest givers, something like that. I think this is like really, really evocative of the Aaru faction. We've got super large statues of like Anubis, some obelisks, not Obelisk the Tormentor though. We don't support him. We could have giant bugs for bosses. This could also be a character, right? Just like sort of scale it down. But this could be a good boss. I'm thinking like maybe, what if you queue up? No queues. What if in your clan, in your Godforge clan, you team up with 39 other people, and there's this huge like community event where you go to the gates of like the Aaru like pyramid or whatever, and you like ring this huge freaking gong and you battle these bugs, right? And then the 40 of you go in and you battle these gigantic bosses. Like Fateless are always talking about how Godforge is inspired by a lot of MMOs. Like that could bring in the MMO feeling. We could even have different colored mounts for for while we're traveling, right? This could even be in like a separate game mode. Like I know in Watcher of Realms, there's it's called like the Void Rift or something. It's like very Diablo. You go in and you can like click and move your character around like a small map to go find battles. And they jump on a horse. So like we could have different colored bugs that are like very they're very thematic with the Aaru, right? Yeah. You wouldn't want your players to be able to use these mounts outside of the event though. But they still count towards their total mount count. So you still need to go like get all of them, right? But only one you're allowed to use out, and that's like the most difficult. Maybe that's the one you have to pay for, right? You buy the battle pass, and that's the one you get. Okay, a couple more. Sorry, I know this is taking a little while. Next up, so I didn't remember. Hang on. Something's. So I didn't remember that we already had the mummy as a common or uncommon character, but there could be some like different kinds, right? We could get some skins that would make them more reminiscent of, very factual representations of ancient Egyptian mythology, like Brendan Fraser's The Mummy. We could even get like, almost like Fortnite skins, but with Brendan Fraser. I'd buy that. I'd buy that in a heartbeat. And of course, we also saw Imhotep, but we didn't see any pictures. So this is like so you could have two different ones. You could have like regular Imhotep and then like, God dilapidated villain Imhotep, right? I think that would be really good. Also, you could probably get him to voice act. Like, I don't really know if he's doing much these days. So, you could probably get him to voice act, right? And of course, if you're going to have Imhotep and the Mummy and Brendan Fraser, you've got to have Cleopatra. Or at least one of the Cleopatras, right? There's like Cleopatra 7, I think. And I think some of them were like their own sisters and mothers. Or sisters and... I don't know how the Cleopatra line works. It works really weird. But I think, Simon said that at some point during one of the videos, he said that, hey, this person really likes... What did he say? He said, this person who created this really likes bosomy women or something like that. And he was like, just like our art director. And that made me laugh. So maybe we could have like a skin like this for Cleopatra. I don't know. But I think the biggest like money would be in a collaboration between the Aaru faction and the Rock. So the Rock would be like the first mythical character. He would have like voice lines and things like that, right? And he would transform like a mythic character in Raid Shadow Legends, where he goes from like this sort of humanoid form, and he would transform into the Scorpion King, which famously he played one of his most famous roles in The Mummy, the Scorpion King. And I think it'd be really fun. It could be like, maybe it could be a boss with like a multi-phase fight, or it could be a mythic character that we could play as. Like, maybe he doesn't need such white teeth though. I don't know why he has such white teeth. Next, some inspiration from other games of similar genres. We've got Bastet from Dislight, super cool design. I really like the character design in Dislight, so I'm a little biased. But then there's also Osiris, who we did see from the Aaru faction, but this is their take on Osiris. One of the first, I think the first banner character that came out for Dislight. But you know, I'm just joking around, right? Like, like I'm just joking around. So, who do I really want to be in the Aaru faction? Like sure, Cleopatra would make sense, right? Imhotep obviously is in, King Tut, you know, whatever. The person I would choose to be in the Aaru faction is the Monkey King. I think every faction should have their own version of Wukong, the Monkey King, and he should be thematically in like the same garb, the same colors, you know. And this is not like Thoth or the Egyptian god Babi, who's like a baboon god. This is Wukong, but you know, he took a trip over to ancient Egypt while on his travels to become his journey to the west, on his travels to become Buddha. And he stopped by the Egyptians, and they were building, you know, pyramids and shit. And he was like, "That's fantastic." And he shows up on his flying Nimbus, and you know, he's a god. He definitely spent some time in Egypt. So like, I think this would be a good addition to the Aaru, and I think a lot could be done. We could have Wukong in every faction. And it could just be him traveling the world, right? And they could be all different Wukongs. He could have different abilities. Or if you want to be boring, they could just be skins. But imagine like Wukong in the Jade faction is like green, like the green element. And Wukong in the Egyptian faction, Aaru, is blue, like the blue affinity. Like, why not? Anyways, if you want to see more leaks and previous leaks and next week's leaks, we do these videos live every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Twitch.tv/VexingLive. Links are down below. I hope you are having a good day and a good night. I hope you have a good weekend. Stay tuned for the next Fateless video where I'm going to react to a couple different things. There's a recent community, hey, we want these things in the game. Going to take a look at that. And there's a podcast about exploits and community, like community-made projects, sort of like Raid Shadow Legends Helper and the Hell Hades Helper, you know, things like that. Are they good for games, whatnot? They talk a little bit about speedrunning too, so we're going to talk about that. Anyway, I hope everybody has a good day and a good weekend, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!